What's up, guys? Zach Dixon from Players Lounge here with a new weekly content strategy. So it is called hashtag Self-Help Saturdays, the best books you'll never read. So I love reading self-help books, and I'll talk more about this in a little bit. But just really quickly, my name is Zach Dixon, and I decided to start documenting and creating more content in 2018. I am an alcoholic and addict with mental health issues. I also got a full scholarship to Phillips Academy, majored in French studies at Wesleyan University, and started Players Lounge, a video game betting site funded by the CEO of Take-Two and Y Combinator. So, as I've said in my other posts, I've really decided to hold myself accountable to posting about mental health issues that I struggle with, and that I hope everyone will seek more individual and group therapy. It's very important, and most of your health insurance plans and HR managers will allow you to do it, so please ask them about it. The individual and group therapy that I got from getting sober and from spending more time around sober people who had audited themselves played a tremendous role in better understanding myself, my battles, and what I am best at. So I am not the best at anything, just flat out. I went to the best boarding school in the world, and while I was there, the only thing that I could truly say that I was the best at was Halo 2 and organizing video game tournaments. I repeated 10th grade. Like, I did 10th grade twice. I did 5 years of high school. I did not make honor roll consistently. I never made honor roll at the private school that I went to in Louisiana, and I only made it a few times at Andover. I did not become a professional soccer player or esports athlete, and I was never the best student in any class I ever took, ever. So maybe it's because I'm not smart enough. That's probably why, but it could also be, dealing with the fact that, embarrassingly, I've only ever done about 30% of the reading assignments assigned to me. I was a French studies major at Wesleyan, and I'm mortified looking back on it to admit that while at the best boarding school in the world and a top liberal arts college, I only read about 30% of the history, English, French literature, and film assignments given to me. So you may be asking yourself, why the fuck did he choose to be a French studies major? And that's a great question. And I'll make a post on that later, but I'm a strong proponent of the liberal arts education. But the short answer is three things. One, French is one of the three things I'm most passionate about in life. The other two are video games and surrounding myself with talented people. Number two, I was the only straight single male athlete in a major packed with attractive female francophones. And then lastly, and most importantly, the major was very flexible, and I was able to study mostly French language, history, and film, things that I'm academically and personally very interested in. So I will also embarrassingly admit that to this day, I don't really read that much. I spend an hour or so a day on LinkedIn, reading esports news, watching Twitch, and reading some self-help books. These are the tools that I use to grow every day in my industry, in my vertical, but I rarely read strictly for pleasure. The last book that I read for pleasure was Bonfire of the Vanities, and I strongly recommend it. Don't watch the movie's garbage, but the book is entirely about white debauchery during the peak of Wall Street, about the evils of structural racism and systematic bias in New York City against African Americans, and it's very telling and more relevant ever than today. So that said, I read about one book for pleasure every 3 to 6 months. I do read. I am literate, but it's mostly for what I'd call business pleasure. Of the 30% of books and readings that I did do at Andover and Wesleyan, the most important book that I ever read was also the shortest book ever assigned to me, and it was Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So I know most of you are probably never going to even think about reading this book. It's one of those books that everyone says you should read, just like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. These fall under the bucket of self-help books, and they're honestly the only books that I really enjoy reading outside of the occasional graphic novel. So, as I've said before, I'm an extremely outgoing person. I love talking to strangers. One of the reasons that I've spent so much time studying foreign languages, French for 20 years, Spanish for 5 years, Portuguese for 3 years, and German for 3 months, is because I get an insane rush out of speaking to a stranger in their native tongue. The look of surprise and wonder on their face when I don't have to ask them where they're from, I just speak immediately to them in the language that they grew up speaking, is beyond heartwarming. And my favorite quote is from Nelson Mandela, and it's, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, it goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, it goes to his heart. I've put a lot of stock in this philosophy, and it's one of the secrets to my sales sauce. If the only way to speak another language, to learn a second or third or fourth language, is by failing 60,000 plus times. And if you can learn to fail like that and not be embarrassed, it's really good for you. Speaking to strangers is one of the most important things you'll ever do. It will sharpen your sales skills, cut up your cold calling charisma, and endow you with an energy to pursue all of your goals. Or at least it does for me. It's also insanely low risk. Your Facebook friends will never find out, your colleagues won't know, and your parents won't chide you about it. If you can work up the courage to start speaking consistently to strangers, you may yet become a master of the universe. Thanks, Tom Wolfe. The reason I'm telling you all of these things, The Art of War is definitely one of the best books you'll never read. It's about 150 pages, and it's broken up into 13 chapters with seemingly repetitive sayings or stories, in the same way that most self-help books are structured. The Art of War, along with How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Charisma Myth, and Getting to Yes, those 4 books have had the biggest impact on how I view my strategic long-term decisions in life and fundamental social acumen. So why did I decide to be a French major? Well, for all the things I already talked about, and because I knew that I wanted to be Alec Baldwin style, always be closing, and that I wanted to be a disturbingly proficient seller, to close sales that most people get uncomfortable even thinking about. So every week, I will be talking through one chapter of a self-help book and breaking down the strategies, lessons, and practice points discussed. Most people never read these books, in the same way that most people never go to therapy, Alcoholics Anonymous, or write down their life's ambitions. I'm not telling you these are the keys to success, but I'm just telling you they're strategies that are working for me so far. So self-help books are not meant to be read in a single sitting. They're not meant to be academic, and they are going to give you anecdotal results at best if you read these books in less than a 1 week period. So, in fact, I strongly recommend reading Sun Tzu or Carnegie over the course of months, not weeks. The goal of these books is to impact the way you think about human interaction and strategy fundamentally. You will not affect meaningful change in your life in a single week in any arena, let alone in the thing that you probably do most and worst: win friends and influence people. So think about how well your New Year's resolutions are going, right? These books should be read over the period of months, not weeks, 1 chapter at a time. Read a chapter and sit on it. Then think about how you've handled things in your life, decisions you've made, forks in the road you've chosen, and how you'd make those decisions differently today had you been equipped with this new knowledge. So, brief introduction on Sun Tzu's The Art of War to give you a little context on why this is one of the most important books you'll never read. This is widely regarded as the most important military text in human history. It is the Old Testament as far as dealing with humans is concerned. This text has been read billions of times by millions of people around the world in the previous thousands of years. I've read this book about 5 to 7 times now, and each time I reread it, I draw something more powerful from it than I had before. And I try to read this and Carnegie once a year to sharpen up my sales energies. So with that said, welcome to the first ever #self-help Saturdays. I'll be choosing quotes from each chapter of a famous self-help book in history, and I hope you'll stick along for the ride. So the first chapter of The Art of War is called Strategic Assessments, and my first quote is a really good one. Military action is important to the nation. It is the ground of death and life, the path of survival and destruction, so it is imperative to examine it. Quick takeaway here. You can and should reflect on all things you do in your life. The decisions you make, the words you use, the people you spend your time with, and the positive and negative energies that you allow to consume your day. Auditing yourself into more positive situations will only result in more positive results. I wrote an article about this for Mental Health Mondays, so check it out if you haven't read it yet. Number 2, therefore, measure in terms of 5 things. Use these assessments to make comparisons and thus find out what the conditions are. The 5 things are the way, the weather, the terrain, the leadership, and the discipline. So this is a DJ Khaled style major key alert, and I'm going to go through what each of these 5 really mean. Number 3, the way means inducing the people to have the same aim as the leadership, so that they will share death and share life without fear of danger. So if you can't convince people to get on board with your way, you need to read this book very badly. You can't force people to believe in your way. It's something that they must see you actively practicing, realize the benefits, and just start shotgunning the Kool-Aid, not sipping it. Gary Vaynerchuk is scarily good at this, so give him a look if you haven't. Number 4, the weather means the seasons, okay? Don't try to contact someone at 7 p.m. on a Friday, or try to open up a fundraising or long sales cycle play right before a holiday. Don't reach out to me and just ask explicitly for my time. Express that you respect my time and will follow up regardless of whether or not I respond to you. If you want my attention, you should be willing to sweat for it, and anyone worth getting in touch with will probably share this feeling. So, number 5, the terrain is to be assessed in terms of distance, difficulty, or ease of travel, dimension, and safety. So, do you want to meet someone badly? Tell them you'll come to them at their convenience, and then move heaven and earth to make it possible for you to do that. I never ask my mentors to meet me far from their offices or outside of agreeable hours to them. They're my mentors for a reason. I respect them, their time, and their advice. I'm willing to spend more of my time so that they can give me some extra of theirs and share it. So, number 6, the question regarding political leadership is, who is able to win the hearts of the people? The ancient classic of documents says, the one who treats me well is my leader. The one who treats me cruelly is my enemy. Anyone who has ever had a boss that they don't like, this should ring very truly in your heart. And my takeaway here is, leadership is an interesting thing. There are many books that you can read about leadership, and you should read if you're interested in becoming a leader or being a good one. And for me, I cannot and will not work my hardest or produce my best results if I don't believe in the leadership ahead of me. No one has ever worked for me. People all work with me. And that's a fundamental difference, I think, in good leaders versus bad leaders. Treat everyone well, and they'll be willing to break down any brick wall for you. So, number 7, a military operation involves deception. Even though you are competent, appear to be incompetent. Though effective, appear to be ineffective. So everything worth doing in life involves a little deception. I don't mean deception like lying or cheating or stealing. I mean, you don't need to play your whole hand right away. Just like on a first Tinder date, you don't tell them that you've stalked them on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram and you want to marry them. Good things take time. You will know in your heart of hearts when is the right moment to make the ask. And if you don't, you need sales help badly. The ask is everything. Number 8, use humility to make them haughty. Now, this is a really important one for me because I am very guilty of coming across as cocky or overconfident. It's feedback that I've gotten my whole life. It's no secret, I believe in celebrating wins and celebrating losses even more. So it's a major reason that I am as forward and candid with people as I am. No one wants to work with you if you're a dick. So be humble and grind hard. if I was more talented, it'd be great. I wouldn't have to work so fucking hard. So that's one of my favorites. Number 9, cause division among them. Now, there are always going to be people, competitors, and temptations in your way. It's your job to make it difficult for these distractions to divide you. It's okay to disrupt the harmony of a marketplace with your idea or aura. Break the status quo and point out what you think is not okay. There will be people who think I'm crazy and share too much. But if I become a divisive and disruptive figure in the mental health conversation, then I'm that much closer to doing everything that I wanted to do in my life. Number 10, the last and most important one. The formation and procedure used by the military should not be divulged beforehand. So I'm going to break this one down a little more. Some people say that the more they know about you, the more they can manipulate you. And that can be true. But I've always been of the mind that revealing my truths on my timing plays out in my favor. I don't tell someone that I want them to be a mentor of mine in our first meeting. I wait, demonstrate value, intrigue, and genuine interest in them personally and professionally. Then I keep doing this for months and create the relationship so that by the time that I ask them to be my mentor, of course they say yes. And I have several mentors. I've had probably a dozen over the last 10 years. So my biggest takeaway here, you should be systematic in the way you approach the first 6 years of your career. I'm approaching my 6th year out of college, and I'm not saying that you take the first job that comes to you and work that job for 6 years. I'm also not saying that you switch between jobs every 6 months to ladder climb your way up to the top. What I am saying is that you should always have a target on the horizon, something unattainable in this moment that is a point of navigation. It will help you form longer-term strategies around everything you do, personally, professionally, financially, romantically, socially, everything, physically. And every 6 months, take some time to audit yourself in all of those arenas and see what progress you've made. If you haven't made good progress, you might want to, reconsider where your motives are. So strategically assess everything that has value to you. Like the CEO of Take-Two, Strauss Zelnick, told me, make sure you're making progress every day towards your life's goals. And if you're not, make sure you're resting so that tomorrow you can. As always, thank you for making the time. If you're enjoying this, please throw up a like, share, or comment. I'm happy to engage and answer questions and talk to strangers. I love doing it. So if you know a recent college grad who is struggling or looking to move along their life that much faster, please share this with them. I will see you guys next week for #Self-Help Saturdays with Chapter 2 of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, Doing Battle. It is one of my favorites. Thank you.